President, please be seated.
អង្គជំនុំជម្រះប្រកាស
The chamber is back in session, and I give the floor to the international co-prosecutor to continue putting questions to the witness.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Witness. Just a few questions for you. Did you see in the East Zone, when you were working for Sao Pim, did you see any advisors or personnel from China?
No, I never saw them.
Did you see a visitor from China?
When I was there, I never saw foreign visitors.
Okay, I may come back to that a bit later. During the time, those years, you talked about the arrests of East Zone cadre. Did any of your own family get arrested?
There were none of my relatives who were arrested because none of my relatives worked.
What about Sao Pim's relatives? Did you see any of them arrested or hear of them being arrested?
All of Sao Pim's relatives were arrested and all of them died.
You mentioned not he was the youngest son of Sao Pim, is that correct?
Yes, his youngest son. I met him while he was still young.
About how old was he in 1978? Do you know?
Based on my estimation, he aged between 4 and 10 years old.
Was there a Nat, a son of Sao Pim, on the hospital committee?
No. His youngest son was still learning in the school at the farm along with other kids.
Perhaps you can help us because there's a document that was recovered from S21, and I'm actually referring now to what's on the OCIJ list, Your Honors, E3/10604. On that list, number 11676, Mr. Witness, is someone named Hang Nor, alias Nat, who's identified as a member of the East Zone Hospital Committee and the son of Pim, who entered S21 on 10 July 1978. Did you know this? Pang Nor, who was on the hospital committee in the East Zone?
ខ្ញុំមិនបាទខ្ញុំមិនបានស្គាល់ពីតកូលពីអីទេប៉ុន្តែ
I did not know about the family name of the person, but I met Nat, who was the chief of the hospitals in the East Zone. He escaped and was also jailed with me in Svay Rieng. I met that person. He was imprisoned with me. And when the prison was attacked and we got separated from each other.
When you talk about your being in prison, how long was that after your trip with Sao Pim to Phnom Penh? Can you tell us how many weeks or months later it was that you were imprisoned?
After I had returned from my fleeing, I was imprisoned when I arrived at my homeland, but I cannot recall how many months I remained in the prison.
So when you first went to the prison, would that have been the same month or within the same month of the time that you went to Phnom Penh with Sao Pim? Would it have been some days after your escape from Kasai Sat, or was it weeks, or was it months?
បាទប្រហែលជាយូរដែរ
It was a long time. Although I cannot recall it clearly, but based on my estimation, after I had fled from the incident in Phnom Penh, I spent around 10 days in Suong, and then I continued my journey to my homeland. It took altogether about 1 month.
Thank you. And then you were imprisoned for some months after that, is that correct?
I was in the prison for about 1 month or more than 1 month. And then the Vietnamese soldiers attacked the area, and as a result, I was freed.
Where exactly was the prison that you were held at?
It was at a pagoda called Kadai Rumdul Pagoda near the river to the north of Svay Rieng provincial town.
How many people were held at that prison with you?
I could not count the numbers, but to my estimation, there were more than 200 prisoners.
When you were arrested, did you hide your identity in some way? Did you tell them you were a bodyguard for Sao Pim?
At that time, I concealed my identity. I said that I was a worker from the plantation However, I thought that if I had remained in the prison for a longer period, my life would not be spared.
Did you see or learn of any of the prisoners there being killed?
At that time, I did not know. President, please hold on, Mr. Witness, and the floor is given to Counsel Ong Takusei.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm speaking at this stage in order to object. The first questions are related to the experience of the witness, but here the co-prosecutor will be asking questions about a pagoda prison, which is not in the scope of the trial. Therefore, I object that questions be asked in this area.
Your Honor, we're on the, this witness is being called for the trial segment of purges. I'm talking about purges of the East Zone. I'm about to ask him about the kinds of persons that were at that prison and what happened to them. It's a witness called at the request of the defense. I think it's directly relevant to purges. My questions.
It doesn't seem to me that the witness was called to talk about the purges, which are not part of the segment that we have due to the severance order. And the team of Nuanchea wanted to talk about that issue and armed conflict and the problem of internal problems that there might have been with the East Zone, and the decision was made to put this witness on the list related to that. So the decision that we can talk about purges which are not part of the severance order is a distortion of what evidence in the chamber should be. So I continue to object, and I insist that this is not among the elements of evidence that were foreseen in the severance order. So it's up to the chamber.
President, since it is related to the purge in the East Zone, which is the fact in case 002/02, therefore the question is allowed to be asked because it is relevant to the elements of the purge. Therefore, the objection by the defense counsel for Khieu Samphan is overruled. Mr. Witness, please answer the question if you can still recall it. Witness, could you please repeat your question?
Certainly. My question was if you saw any people in that prison killed or people that you believed were killed because they disappeared.
At that time, I did not witness it. That night, the prison was bombarded with artillery shells, and in the morning, I saw people had already escaped. No one died as a result of the bombardment.
The people that were in the prison with you, were they people who were at least claiming, like you were, to be ordinary workers? Or were these obviously East Zone division soldiers, division or district or sector soldiers.
All those who were jailed with me came from different backgrounds. They came from ministries, from sectors, and from other zones. Those who came back to their respective homeland were rounded up, arrested, and jailed there.
When you were not in the prison, either before or after you were in the prison, did you see any killings of East Zone soldiers or cadre by soldiers from the center or central zone or southwest zone?
Before I was jailed, although there were cases of killing, they never allow us to see those killing. We only knew about disappearance of people, but I never witnessed the killing with my own eyes.
I believe you said that in the defense office there was a total of 60 people. You said including the support staff. Do you know how many approximately of them survived 1978, survived these incidents?
Among the 60 individuals, whom I met since they were young, 5 or 6 of them survived. Some of them escaped to Vietnam, while others escaped to somewhere. I met them since we were quite young, and now we are getting older and older. There are a few of them who are survived, and all of them are old.
Did you ever come across killing fields, locations where bodies of East Zone soldiers or cadre were disposed of after killing?
No, I never saw those places. I never went across the killing fields.
What happened, if you know, to Sao Pim's wife, Ye Karu?
I was not aware of what happened to Sao Pim's wife because she was at a different place from mine.
Before Sao Pim's trip to Phnom Penh and suicide, the times before that, did you ever see people arrested and taken to Phnom Penh?
Before that, I did not see the arrest taking place, and because I did not see the arrest with my own eyes, I am not in a position to comment on that.
Did you ever see security from the center coming to the East Zone to pick people up?
President When you say center, can you specify it, whether from the central zone or from where? Because it's not clear in Khmer language.
Thank you. Did you see people coming from Phnom Penh to transport persons back to Phnom Penh? Arrestees back to Phnom Penh?
Witness, no, I never saw it with my own eyes. Only if they had come to arrest people at my exact location, I would be aware of this. But for other places, it's beyond my knowledge, because during the regime, I had no rights to go freely. I could go somewhere only when there was authority or permission.
Did you ever see any Vietnamese who had been captured and being held by Khmer forces, whether it was East Zone or any other forces? Did you see any Vietnamese soldiers or civilians captured?
No, I never saw it. I never saw it. That's all for my answer.
Did you ever, by chance, see a video of Vietnamese arrestees confessing?
No, I did not see it, because during the regime there was no video, even radios there were none.
I want to ask you a little bit more about the visits of Nunchia to the East Zone. Is it correct you told us he slept in the defense office in Song? Is that right?
I do not understand your question. I don't know how to answer your question. You said that whether his visit is correct or not. I don't know how to answer this question, President. The question intended to ask you about the time when Nuon Chea visited the East Zone, whether he stayed at the defense unit or office. Witness. Yes, he went there and stayed there.
So do I understand correctly then Nuon Chea was sleeping with the bodyguard unit of Sao Pim, right in his offices of his own security, Sao Pim security. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did Nuon Chea give any speeches that you recall?
No, I never saw him delivering speeches.
Mr. Witness, there's a point of your interview last year that I don't quite understand, so I'd like to read it to you and ask you to explain. And you said this about the time that you were talking about the trip to Phnom Penh with Sao Pim. So this is at English 013-533-391. In Khmer, it's 0134-0587. And in French, it's 0134-5525. You were being asked about the trip and about taking guns along, who brought a gun, and what Sao Pim was wearing. You also mentioned someone named Pai, P-H-Y. Pai. And then talking, you said he was wearing black trousers with rubber stretch waist. You were asked, did he have any gun on him? You said he did, but his gun was in his bag. At night, I took his gun. He asked for it during the day, but I did not give him. You said that he said, where are you taking my gun? Give it to me. But that you did not give it to him. You said that it occurred to you that he was tired. He just walked for a bit, and they arrested him in front of us. He was blindfolded and punched up. He was arrested that night, and then after they shot him, and I had gone to restrain them, this old guy said, now get out of this house. So I'm very confused by that. Does that ring a bell to you? Can you explain what you were talking about?
Perhaps the one who took note did not write it correctly. I told the story according to the chronological order of the events. At the time Pai was shot, I retreated from the arrest scene. The shooting took place a few rounds, not just one. And as for the name of the person P that you mentioned, he was a young boy who was carrying water for him, and the name of the boy was P.
So do I understand correctly that Sao Pim asked you to give him his gun, that you were holding it and he wanted it? Is that right?
He usually did not carry his gun with him. The gun usually was in the basket, and he was so scared at the time, that's why he ran back and quit the gun.
In that little section I read, it said that someone was blindfolded and punched. Does that ring a bell? Who were you talking about? Was that Sao Pim or someone else?
The one who was arrested was the one who came from Phnom Penh's office. I did not know that individual. He stood guard with me on that night. This person was arrested when he walked toward a location. I did not know this person. All I know is that this individual was also from the east.
I see. So another East Zoner, but from Phnom Penh, who was standing guard with you during this incident, was arrested, punched, and shot. Do I understand correctly now?
The arrest happened at night time. I did not know whether he was shot by his colleagues or by the one who arrested him. At the time, fire was shot while we were told to put our hands up.
Okay. And this is what occurred at Kasai Sat?
Yes, at Araiksat.
Sat. Thank you. I wanted to ask you a question based upon what another witness has told the court. And this is a WRI of Mia Soon. It's at E3/5531, answer 62. First of all, do you know Mia Soon, Mr. Witness?
I do not know this individual.
He said that he received a letter from Sao Pim on 25 May 1978, and through Sao Pim's former chauffeur, Sam. The letter said, to comrades Saw and Soon at the lathing workshop, please have the force ready to protect our force from being captured, because in our estimate there must be a military coup led by Sun Sen to topple the party's secretary and deputy secretary. Did you ever hear Sao Pim saying that he thought that the arrests were part of a coup led by Sun Sen against Pol Pot and Nun Chea?
I have never heard about that matter. That's all I can say.
The witness went on in the same answer to say that his chairman told him that he had received a letter from Sao Pim. And Sao Pim said that he would go to Phnom Penh to discuss the issue because he had heard from the radio that Pol Pot and Nun Chea would go to see the chairman of Burma's Communist Party at Pochentong Airport. Do you remember Sao Pim making any comments about meeting Pol Pot and Nun Chea because they were going to be at the airport meeting the Burmese?
I have never heard about that. He would tell me to send him to a specific location, but he never told me about the detailed tasks or matters that he was to engage in.
Another book that that's been read to you is by this Australian historian, Stephen Morris, E3/7338. And I want to ask you about something he wrote and this is at English, there's no other French or Khmer, 01001-773. Said one of the eventual victims of Pol Pot's purge of traitors, Sao Pim, who suicided, was secretary of the Eastern Zone of the CPK and a member of the Politburo Standing Committee. He had been one of the most staunch advocates of attacking the Vietnamese. Did you ever hear Sao Pim speaking about taking the offensive against the Vietnamese and attacking the Vietnamese?
I have never heard about that. I was only assigned to a guard, to secure a guard for him and to accompany him to some places.
Mr. President, I don't have further questions. I believe the lead co-lawyers have some questions.
President, yes, you may now proceed with co-lawyers for civil parties. Thank you, Mr. President, Your Honors. Good afternoon, the Chamber, civil parties, all parties, and Mr. Witness. I have not many questions to put to you. When you were in Kampong Cham securing guard for Sao Pim, did you at one point in time attend any meeting chaired by Sao Pim? Answer. I never met him in a meeting venue when I was there. Question. Did you ever attend or hear of any weddings in the East? Answer. No, I never witnessed the wedding. Question. In a document produced by DCCAM, that is documentation tensor of Cambodia A3/10714 ELN in Khmer 013 27 932. My apology, Mr. President, I do not have eons in English and French. The statement you gave to the DCCAM that Sao Pim had a meeting in the region about the plan from the upper echelon to be implemented. I have a question to put to you, Mr. Witness. Did you ever, were you aware that Sao Pim held meetings to discuss the plan from the upper echelon? Answer. The plans were under different units charge. I have never known about the plans. Usually the plans were put in a document. President, you may now proceed. Copper.
Yes, Mr. President. Same objection as earlier. The objection to which the prosecution responded that they agree with the defense that Sao Pim is upper echelon. So there is no distinction between upper echelon and Sao Pim. Hence the question that the lead co-lawyer asked the witness is incorrect.
I don't quite understand the objection. Of course, Sao Pim, a zone leader, can be saying to implement the standing committee's decisions. He's part of the standing committee. That's different than Sao Pim saying implement a sector decision or a zone decision or a district decision. The question was whether Sao Pim, the witness indicated earlier, that Sao Pim had told the sectors to implement the upper levels, ANCAR's upper levels decision.
President, the objection is overruled. The question can be put, and the chamber needs to hear the answer from the witness. That I am referring to is 013-2793-2. 013-27-932 in English. 013-38-108 C4. There is no French eon. Mr. Witness, can you clarify for the chamber whether or not you are aware of the plans conveyed by Sao Pim to his members in the zone, or were the plans were conveyed in other forms other than in the meetings? Witness. I assume that he held no meetings, but perhaps when he made the visits on the ground to different regions, he may have made mention about the plans. I myself did not hear with my own ears the plans. President, Mr. Witness, I remind you again, if you do not know or if you are not sure, you can say that I do not know. Please avoid responding the question with your own doubts. If you say I do not know, it appears that I do not know. It's very difficult to understand your answer. I told you already this morning. Mr. Witness, to your understanding, and since you know Sao Pim, how was he? Did he obey his superiors? President, please hold on. Mr. Witness, you may now proceed. Copper.
I object to that question because Sao Pim didn't have any superiors.
The case file shows that that's not true. The constitution of the DK, there is a Pol Pot's position, the Prime Minister's. Sao Pim clearly was part of this standing committee, but it doesn't make him number one in the regime, and I think the defense and us agree on that. He was very high in the regime, but he was not. He was below Pol Pot and Nun Chea.
Well, that's a very interesting new perspective from the prosecution. I believe the trial chamber judgment clearly indicates one quote-unquote joint criminal enterprise. I don't think there's any distinction being made, and rightfully so, between the numbers 1 and 2 and the subsequent numbers. All members of the standing committee were equally powerful. As a matter of fact, it was the central committee which held power. So it is inaccurate to say that somehow Pol Pot or Nuon Chea had any rank over Sao Pim.
I thought the defense had been conceding all along that Nuon Chea was number 2 in the regime. I don't have the quote in front of me, but I think that's been consistently their position for years, that they were not denying that. So if he's number 2, I think we all know who number 1 is, and that puts everyone else below him.
It's a very, very simplistic version of the power structure. What we have always conceded is that Nguyen Chi was Deputy Secretary of the Communist Party and Chairman of the National Assembly. We never said that he had any superior power over Sopim or Runim.
But you're not saying that all necessarily and generally all members of a joint criminal enterprise have necessarily or need to have the same status.
That is, of course, true, but there is absolutely zero evidence that Pol Pot or Nguyen Chi had any superior power in hierarchy, in terms of hierarchy, over Sopim or any other members of the Standing Committee, for that matter. It wasn't that like anywhere in the CPK constitution or CPK documents or any government document that is being stated. I don't think that's even the Chamber's position.
President, the objection is overruled and the question can be put by party witness. Please respond to the question. Mr. Witness, lawyer. Mr. Witness, do you recall my question? Witness, I cannot remember it. Can you repeat it? Lawyer, Mr. Witness, since you know Sopim, how is he? Did he obey the instruction by the party or the party center or the standing committee of the party? At the time, I did not know how to assess his obedience of the offices or ministries. As long as the plans were disseminated to all of us, we needed to implement. Otherwise, we would be considered to be disrespected to the plans, and we would be accused of opposing the plans. I did not know how to assess how obedient he was at the time. Question. Did you at any point in time hear the criticism made by Sopim against the party or party center? Answer, no. I never heard that he said anything against the party. At the time, I was his bodyguard. Lawyer, my last question, Mr. Lawyer. How did he show physically his behaviors in vis-a-vis his obedience to the instructions of the upper echelon? Answer. I do not really understand your question about the plans, whether or not he respected or complied with the plans. As long as the plans were disseminated to all of us, we had to implement. Otherwise, we would be accused of opposing the plans, although as we were civilians or ordinary people. I do not know how to respond to your question. Did you ever observe that Sopim opposed to the plans of the upper echelon? Answer. I never saw the fact that he opposed the plans. Lawyer, thank you very much, Mr. Vines. I am done with my questioning, Mr. President. I have a series of questions to put to you for the clarification. You have already answered, but I would like to you to clarify about some places and about the fact that Sao Phum told Heng Samrin that he would go to Phnom Penh to resolve some issues, and he added that if no news were sent from him for 1 week, he asked Heng Samrin to gather forces to go into the forest. Where did Sao Phum make that statement, and at what particular time? Answer. He made that statement in provincial town of Phray Vang at the time when we were about to board the vehicles. I had no time to, I had no clock to time. It was around 3, said the witness, PM or AM. President. So after he made that statement, Sao Phum and you, as well, and also your group, went directly to Phnom Penh. Is that correct? He was about to leave at the time. He was at his table, and after he made that statement to Heng Samrin, he left, and I went into the room to clean up the table. Then we left Phray Vang. President, how many vehicles at the time that were used to travel from Phray Vang to Phnom Penh? Was there only one vehicle, or were there many vehicles? Answer. There were 2 vehicles, 2 jeeps with no cover, the American-made jeeps. President, were all the vehicles jeeps? Answer, yes. President, do you remember who were the drivers of the 2 jeeps departing from Phray Vang to Phnom Penh, Areksat Phnom Penh? Do you know all the names of the drivers? Answer, yes, I do. They were in my guard unit. One is Kim, another one, Main. Question. Did you learn about the fates of the 2 drivers? What happened to them? Answer. I received no news from them. They may have died. The drivers were with him at the time. Question. After you learned from the soldiers at Phray Po that Sao Phum committed suicide, did you learn what happened to the 2 drivers after you learned that Sao Phum committed suicide? Answer. I do not know. All I know is that they had all been arrested. There is no news that they survived the arrests. President, thank you. I have some questions in relation to people in the East. Since you were always with SALPM to different sectors under the East Zone, so my question is, did you happen to go to Sector 24 with him? Answer. I, at the time, did not know the geographic areas. I was disoriented about the division of sectors at the time. I was with him. I was accompanying him to different sectors, but I did not know at the time the names or the numbers of the sectors. President, regarding the sectors that you went to provide protection to SALPM, did you know some of the names of leaders of some sectors in the East, or names of the deputy head of the sectors? Answer. Some drivers told me of some names. Chien was one of the sector chairman. Chan Sing Hong was another head of a sector. These are two individuals that I know. President, regarding Chien, which sector of the East was he in charge? Answer. I do not remember the sector where he was in charge of. It was, to my recollection, to the north of provincial town of Phray Vang, but I do not know which sector it was. I was quite new to the location. That's all. Question regarding Chien, the chairman of a sector. Did he survive the regime? And after the liberation of 1979, did you at any point in time meet him? Answer. I have never met him since then. He may have died. I have never heard about him. President, thank you. Can you clarify, make a clarification for the chamber once again, and if you do not know, please say so. Do not give your doubtful answers to the chamber. You made mention about an individual by the name Sing Hong, one chairman of a sector under the East Zone. Do you know which sector he was in charge of?
Answer. I met him in the area near Chirkat Phray Vang. He supervised the area to the east of Phnom Chirkat or Chirkat Mountain, and he had an office there. Question. And when you met him, he was the secretary or a member of the sector? Answer. I was not clear about his position, whether he was the secretary or deputy or member. but he was in charge of that sector. That's all for my answer, President. Thank you. Did you know who were below Sao Pham in the East Zone? Answer. I did not know who held what positions, but there was an office head. I don't know whether he was a deputy of the office or the deputy of the zone. Question. Were you familiar with Sector 21? Answer. Now I cannot recall those sectors. But at that time, I used to travel to different sectors, but I cannot recall them now. Question. Can you tell us about the location of the zone's headquarters? Where was it located? Answer. Regarding the zone's headquarters, I never went there myself. I only heard about it from people working there, and they came to my office and they told me that the headquarters was located at the place with the code name 09, but I had no idea where that location 09 was. Question. Did you know that Sao Pham went to the East Zone's headquarters often? Answer. At that time, during the time I was there, he never went to it. If there were anything or reports to be made, people working there came to report to him. Question. Were you familiar or did you know about the East Zone's security office? Answer. I did not know where the East Zone security office located. I only heard from my fellow workers said that there was a security office, and they joked with us that we had to be mindful of our action. If we committed anything wrong, we would be sent there. Question. And did you know who was the chief of that Sri Space security office? Answer. I did not hear about it clearly, but I heard from some colleagues who chatted with me. They said that the place was under the supervision of Bong Tain or Brother Tain. President, thank you. During the conflict with Vietnam period, did you ever participate in fighting against the Vietnamese, especially when the Vietnamese entered Cambodian territory? Answer: no, I never went to fight against them. I never went to the battlefields. President, thank you. Now the chamber gives the floor to the Defense Counsel. Rather, I give the floor to Judge Lavange.
Oui, merci.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I will have one question to ask the witness. This morning, Mr. Witness, you were questioned on the Secretary of Division 5, a person who's called Eng Kim, and you had said that you did not know if Eng Kim was a deputy of Division 4 because Eng Samrin was leading that division. Did I understand correctly what you said this morning?
This morning, I did not say that Ang Kim was the division commander of Division 4. I said that Kim was the commander of Division 5, not 4. I did not say that Heng Kim was in charge of Division 4. That's what I know. President, the name is Heng Kim, not Eng Kim.
I'm sorry for my poor pronunciation in Khmer, and that is what I had understood from your statement this morning. Could you tell us if you know what happened to this person, Heng Kim? Do you know if Heng Kim was arrested?
I did not see it with my own eyes. I did not see the arrest with my own eyes. I did not meet him. I only heard about his name, but I never met him in person.
All right. But did you hear if this person had been arrested? And if yes, do you know when this person was arrested?
As I told you earlier, that I did not see his arrest with my own eyes. I think he was arrested around the time when there were subsequent arrests of people in the zone.
I'm asking this question because this morning it was suggested that Kim may have been the person who was denounced at the center for a plot involving Heng Samrin. And it happens that we have certain documents that contain the name of Heng Kim in the case file. And he is said to have been detained at S21 because he is on the prisoners list of S21 of number 1989, and the date of entry of that prisoner is 5 June 1978. And I would like to clarify that the name Heng Kim also appears in document E3 documents E3 1957, 1959, 1960, 2014, and 2187. Just so that the transcripts are complete.
Voilà, je précise que je n'ai pas.
I would like to clarify that I have no further questions to ask the witness.
If I may, for the record then as well, Mr. President, there were in fact two deputies of the 4th Division. E3/1568 is Heng Samrin's interview to Ben Kiernan, English ERN 00651892, French 007433 It says, and let me quote, if you allow me, Mr. President. Kim was Deputy Chief of the 4th Division. Unclear was Deputy Chief of the 4th Division, and later, when the 5th Division was created, Kim was made Chief of the 5th Division. Unclear, an unknown person, remained Deputy Chief of the 4th Division. So Kim was indeed Deputy Chief, was arrested. I referred to that document already on Thursday, E3/2014, arrested together with the same day as Prakchuk. However, as Heng Samrin indicated, there is another Deputy Chief of the 4th Division. In French, the word illisible is used, and here it is in English the word unclear.
J'ai simplement posé des questions parce que
I simply asked the questions because this morning you brought up the name Kim, so it was just to fill in on the questions that you had asked this morning.
President, thank you. It is now convenient time for a break. The chamber will take a break from now until 3 p.m. I give you the floor.
Yes, Mr. President. Before we take the break, perhaps you would like to know that we have no additional questions for the witness, so perhaps you would like to let him go.
President, thank you for your information. The chamber would like to thank you, Mr. Sun En. The hearing of your testimony as a witness is now concluded. Your testimony may contribute to ascertaining the truth in this case. Your presence in this courtroom is no longer required, and you may be excused. The chamber wishes you all the very best. Court officer. And the chamber also would like to thank Duty Counsel Sok Suchita. You may also be excused. Court officer, in collaboration with Visu, please make necessary transport arrangement to send Mr. Sun En to his home or wherever he wishes to go. And next, the chamber will hear testimony of 2 TCW 1060. But it is now convenient time for the break. The chamber will take a break from now until 3 o'clock. The court is now in recess.